At the outset, I take this opportunity to congratulate Optoelectronics Department of Kerala University for arranging an online platform to reread life and work of Professor C.V. Raman and related fields. 19th and 20th centuries knowledge generation is in watertight compartmentalization, while 21st century is a period of interdisciplinary research. For example, let us take the case of photonics. We have photonics, bioscience, nanoscience, and nanotechnology. You see their intersection gives where different types of interdisciplinary subjects like nanophotonics, biotechnology, biophotonics, nanobiophotonics. Raman effect is a tool to develop various interdisciplinary studies involving photonics or optoelectronics. On this Raman Day, I would like to introduce the interdisciplinary research and development in a wider canvas involving humanities and science with some specific examples with Raman effect at the focal point. November 7 of 2020 is the 132nd birthday of Professor C.V. Raman, Nobel Prize winner in 1930 for his discovery of Raman effect. It is timely to reread the life and mission of Indian great scientist as a national hero who spearheaded the Swadeshi movement in the field of science and technology, just like Mahatma Gandhi led Swadeshi movement in social dynamics. This aspect of scientist life is highly relevant, especially when India seeks self-reliance in all fields of creative activities. This is a symbol of self-reliance in science, where C.V. Raman and his colleagues compiled, constructed, and designed their own spectrograph to view Raman scattering effect in 1928, and the result obtained from this equipment fetched Nobel Prize to India in 1930. To study acoustics of musical instruments, Raman designed and constructed a self-working violin using discarded components from the local market. Story of C.V. Raman in Kathakali format was enacted during the Swadeshi Science Congress in Kasargod during February 27 to 29, 2020. Dr. Narayanan Nambudiri, scientist, CPCRI, enacted the story of Sir C.V. Raman. This is the first record of the discovery of Raman effect as a newspaper report in 29 February 1928, a seminar notice of conference seminar of South Indian Science Association Bangalore, and the seminar subject New Radiation by C.V. Raman, Friday 16th March 1928, and the first page of the part of the first page of the paper published in Indian Journal of Physics on 31st March 1928, and a part of Krishnan's diary note describing the discovery of Raman effect. A new radiation. This is the report given in Indian Journal of Physics on 1928, uh, describing the discovery of Raman effect. Raman made the discovery that visible radiation, which is excited in pure dry glycerol by ultraviolet radiation, is strongly polarized. The same phenomenon was obtained with 80 liquids, compressed gases, and transparent solids. Later on, a detailed paper of on Raman scattering was published as a new class of spectra due to secondary radiation by C.V. Raman and K.S. Krishnan in Indian Journal of Physics. The German theoretical physicist George Juice wrote to Arnold Sommerfeld in Munich, May 14, 1928, asking, "Do you think that Raman's work on optical Compton effect in liquid is reliable? The sharpness of the scattered lines in liquid seems doubtful to me." Although Raman's experiments could not be repeated successfully in Munich, Sommerfeld replied to Jews on June 9, 1928, that, in my opinion, Raman is correct. He writes to me that the difference between the lines is exactly equal to the infrared frequencies of the molecules under consideration. This shows the confidence in Raman's work by the scientific community. In Berlin, the German experimental physicist Peter Pringsheim repeated Raman's experiment successfully and sent his spectra to Sommerfeld on June 20, 1928, thus confirming Sommerfeld's belief in the validity of Raman's work. Pringsheim then reported his work in two articles the following month, becoming the first person to coin the term Raman effect and Raman lines. Later on, several papers published by several people, like on February 8, 1930, by Menzies Raman effects in Nature, in National Academy of Science by Van Luck on vibrational selection principles in Raman effects. Immediately after the report of Raman's work in 1928, several papers came during 1929, like, for example, in Rossetti in 1929 Nature, the interdisciplinary aspects of the Raman effect can be seen from several branches and several corners in science, technology, and humanities. This is an example where famous uh, Holland, Swede, famous Holland Impressionist painter Van Gogh's irises and roses. The analysis of the paintings by making use of the Raman scattering from different parts of the paint from the paintings. Surface-enhanced Raman spectroscopy, a direct method to identify colorants in various artist media. For art restorations or identification of paintings, one has to uh, check the validity of the paint and its distribution over the paint. This is an example where different paints are uh, analyzed making use of Raman scattering. This is necessary when later on art restoration is necessary with to identify the correct type of pigments. Before or instead of using a uh, laser light, the previously the restoration take a lot of time and a time consuming effort. This is an example of conventional art restoration which is time consuming and expensive, that of Raja Ravivarma's painting restored by art restorator Narayanan Nambudiri. This is an example where the oldest piece of statue was restored by using laser light to restore the statue, and you can see the underlying golden color of the statue. Old buildings can be restored, which has got a cultural heritage importance, using erbium lasers. Is an example of that. A breakthrough came in Raman scattering effect is design and construction of a continuous wave Raman silicon laser. Use of identification of Raman laser on silicon is very important in signal processing because conventionally Raman effect or optical phenomena are observed by gallium arsenide type of materials, whereas electronic uh, signals are obtained from silicon. Once we combine this together optically means that we can have an integrated optoelectronic device. This is a typical cross-section of such a silicon silicon ion insulator waveguide which makes use of Raman laser. By making use of different pump wavelengths, we see different output wavelengths of radiation coming out of silicon laser. By giving different bias to the silicon Raman laser, we will see that the slope of 25-volt slope and 5-volt slope, 25-volt slope is a high value of slope with a low threshold, whereas 5-volt has a larger threshold, and you can see that a typical Raman silicon Raman laser can be used for various further applications and very important in photonic signal processing effect. This is an example where the crystalline aspect of silicon and silica Raman scattering, you see a very broad emission at 480 wave numbers, whereas crystalline silicon is very sharp around 520 wave numbers. This is the recent advances in Raman technology with applications in agriculture, food, and biosystems. This shows wide varieties or wide ranges of applications of Raman scattering as interdisciplinary systems. This is the laser emission from transversely pumped dye-doped freestanding polymer film, which can be easily fabricated in the laboratory. You see that as we increase the pump power, a particular mode becomes very narrow and very sharp. This can be used for various optical signal processing aspects. This is uh, another applications of laser-based optical signal processing, where we can make use of a dye-doped polymer optical fiber as a light amplifier. Second half of 19th century, India gave birth to people who created the history of India in all walks of life, like Ramanujan, J.C. Bose, S.N. Bose, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Vivekananda, Pandit Nehru, Gandhiji, S. Chandrasekhar, Subhash Chandra Bose, C.V. Raman, Rabindranath Tagore. Raman used to say, I am the master of my failure. If I never fail, how will I ever learn? The Nobel Prize in Physics 1930 uh, went to Sir Chandrasekhara Venkataraman. This is the press report of that news. The Nobel Prize in Physics 1930 was awarded to Sir Chandrasekhara Venkataraman for his work on the scattering of light and for the discovery of effect named after him. Sir W. H. Bragg and his sons Sir W. L. Bragg got Nobel Prize in 1915 for their work on X-ray analysis of crystal structure carried out during 1912 and 1914, which was the fastest Nobel Prize during that time. By August 1929, about 150 papers were published by Raman and his group. For the 1929 Nobel Prize, out of 97 proposals, the committee declared the names of de Broglie, J. Cabanis, C.V. Raman, and R.W. Wood deserve the prize. Committee finally recommended the name of de Broglie to the Academy for the 1929 Nobel Prize in Physics. By 1930 January, 225 papers were published on Raman effect. For 1930 Nobel Prize, out of 21 valid recommendations, Raman was the most suitable person as he had the most number of nominations. There was one more nomination of Meghnad Saha, also for his studies on thermal ionization. The committee recommended the name of C.V. Raman to the Academy for the 1930 Nobel Prize in Physics. One can have the glimpse of the appreciation of Raman effect from the words of Raman Wood, R.W. Wood, on reviewing C.V. Raman's paper for Nature. It appears to me that this very beautiful discovery, which resulted from Raman's long and patient study of the phenomena of light scattering, is one of the best convincing proofs of the quantum physics. Presentation speech by Professor Pilgel, chairman of the Nobel Committee for Physics, on December 10, 1930. Your Majesty, Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, the Academy of Sciences are resolved to award the Nobel Prize in Physics for 1930 to Sir Chandrasekhara Venkataraman for his work on the scattering of light and for the discovery of the effect named after him. The explanation of this phenomenon, which has received the name of the Raman effect after its discoverer, has been found by Raman himself with the help of the modern conception of nature of light. According to the conception, light cannot be emitted from or absorbed by materials otherwise than in the form of definite amounts of energy, or what are known as light quanta. Thus, the energy of light would possess a kind of atomic character. A quantum of light is proportionate to the frequency of rays of light, so that in the case of a frequency twice as great, the quantum of the rays of light will also be twice as great. Thus, the Raman effect has already yielded important results concerning the chemical constitution of substances, and it is to foresee that the extremely valuable tool that the Raman effect has placed in our hands will, in the immediate future, bring with it a deepening of our knowledge of the structure of matter. Sir Chandrasekhara Venkataraman, the Royal Academy of Sciences, has awarded you the Nobel Prize in Physics for your eminent researches on the diffusion of gases and for your discovery of the effect that bears your name. The Raman effect has opened the new routes to our knowledge of the structure of matter and has already been given the most important results. I now ask you to receive the prize from the hands of His Majesty. This is a picture of C.V. Raman along with his co-prize winners. This is an example of an indigenous low-cost handheld Raman spectrometer for automated on-site testing applications designed and fabricated by scientists from CSIR laboratory of NIIST Trivandrum. The importance of this equipment is Raman spectroscopy became an important analytical tool in many fields of basic science, technology, and industries. Though the basic concept was invented in India, hardly we can find any indigenous products in the market. One of the first attempts to indigenize the technology and to find the solutions to the problems faced by Indian populace. It's very cost-effective, versatile design, built-in modules for online signal processing and online chemometric algorithms. It is contribution to Make in India initiative, Swachh Bharat and Atmanirbhar Bharat missions of the country. Indigenous low-cost handheld Raman spectrometer for automated on-site testing applications just got target beneficiaries and stakeholders in pharmaceutical sector, strategic sector, health sector, food sector, education sector, and so on. Additional features of this uh, equipment made low-cost handheld Raman spectrometer. It is the commercially available imported handheld version mostly utilize 785 nanometer laser diode as the excitation source. The NIST developed system worked with either 613 nanometer or 532 nanometer laser diodes as excitation source. Additionally, this allows for a collection of Raman spectral data in extended range of yielding more scientific information about the samples. The software features designed at NIST has built-in modules and enables online signal processing for noise removal and background corrections, which enable the product to be deployed for on-site applications. We congratulate the team of Yusuf Karwat, Kaustubh Kumar, and so on. In 1998, the Raman effect was designated a National Historical Chemical Landmark in the recognition of its significance as a tool for analyzing the composition of liquids, gases, and solids. The National Historic Chemical Landmarks Program was launched by American Chemical Society in 1992 to recognize seminal achievements in history of chemistry and related professions. The program celebrates the centrality of chemistry. The designation of seminal achievements in the history of chemistry demonstrates how chemists have benefited society by fulfilling the ACS vision, improving people's lives through the transforming power of chemistry. This is the plaque at the entrance of Indian Association of Cultivation of Science, the Raman Effect, the Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science, 1928. At this institute, Sir C.V. Raman discovered in 1928 that when a beam of colored light entered a liquid, a fraction of the light scattered by that liquid was of a different color. Raman showed that the nature of this scattered light was dependent on the type of the sample present. Other scientists quickly understood the significance of this phenomenon as an analytical and research tool and called it the Raman effect. This method became even more valuable with the advent of modern computers and lasers. Its current uses range from the non-destructive identification of minerals to the early detection of life-threatening diseases. For this discovery, Raman was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1930, American Chemical Society, and Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science. In 1998, the Raman effect was designated influence of lasers on the revival of scattering, Raman scattering. We can very well see the invention of lasers has revived Raman effect and its studies, and the number of papers published in different branches of human knowledge is found to be increasing every year. This slide shows the interdisciplinary nature of Raman scattering related research in biophotonics, in archaeology, in health and biomedical applications, and so on. This table gives the number of papers in different branches of human knowledge systems. We have a remark by Paul Dirac. The physicist, in his study of natural phenomena, has two methods of making progress. One, the method of experiment and observation, and two, the method of mathematical reasoning. The former is just the collection of selected data. The latter enables one to infer results about experiments that have not been performed. There is no logical reason why the second method should be possible at all, but one has found in practice that it does work and meets with reasonable success. We have Professor Raman as, as an experimentalist with a deep insight into the problem under investigation in relation to natural phenomena. Nobel laureate S. Chandrasekhar or Chandra noted that we commonly picture the scientist as a methodical investigator moving cautiously from one step in his logic to the next. But looking back upon their discoveries, many scientists themselves recall bursts of creative, almost irrational insight, similar to poets or painters. A famous example is that of Srinivasa Ramanujan, who once said, "An equation means nothing to me unless it expresses a thought of God." We have another example of August Kukule, who discovered the structure of benzene from a dream of a snake swallowing its own tail. Raman effect is a phenomenon which is known after a person, which influences maximum number of diverse fields like physics, chemistry, biology, medicine, archaeology, geology, agriculture, forensic science, communication engineering, computing, laser technology, etc. In fact, there doesn't exist not much areas which are not influenced by Raman effect. Fusion of light and sound with spatio-temporal modifications resulted into the emergence of natural beauty, which was always an illuminating lighthouse for scientists, artists, and literary workers. Both arts and science are the keys which can open the inner corridors of nature's secrets. We have a work by C.P. Snow, read lecture in 1959 and later on published by Cambridge, as Two Cultures. C.P. Snow says, "I believe the intellectual life of the whole Western society is increasingly being split into two polar groups: literary intellectuals at one pole, at the other, scientists, and as the most representative, the physical scientist. Between the two, a gulf of mutual incomprehension, sometimes, particularly among the young, hostility and dislike, but most of all, lack of understanding. They have a curious, distorted image of each other. Their attitudes are so different that even on the level of emotion, they can't find much common ground." Years after, we have Benjamin R. Cohen published this piece in Endeavor, Science and Humanities across two cultures. We see a repositioning of Snow's two culture divide with the development of interdisciplinary science studies, programs, and methodologies. The history of science, the sociology of science, and literature and science can all view science as culturally specific activity that does not have an epistemologically superior foundation. The science studies scholars attempt to reposition the divide by bridging, blurring it, or outright denying. Thus, the contemporary debate has been based on whether or not a divide, as Snow articulated, it exists. There is a give and take between science and humanities on creativity aspects. The scientists who study nature through observations and experiments, and the poet who describes the astonishing spectacle enacted in the grand theatre of the universe are pilgrims progressing along apparently non-intersecting roads aiming at the realization of truth. C.V. Raman was on such pilgrimage. If you look at a diagram as the different routes to realize the ultimate reality, the center of the truth. As we are far away from the center, we have different routes originating from art, science, mysticism, and so on. As we approach to the center and coming nearer and nearer, the separation between these apparently disconnected branches comes to collapse and they form one single unit at the center focal point, realizing ultimate reality. Advancement in human knowledge through physics has also influenced human creativity in arts and science also. This is an example where famous Spanish uh, painter Salvador Dali painted elastic, stretchable time, clearly an influence of theory of relativity. This is a garden sculpture by Henry Moore. By rupturing the geometry of space and different angles, you get the different pictures of the sculpture, redefining the space on sculpture, not reclining figure. Quantum mechanics influenced, for example, Pablo Picasso to paint Dora Maar as a superposition of images. This is a superposition of two angles, just like superposition principle in quantum mechanics with the psi as A psi 1 plus or minus B psi 2. The painter Vincent van Gogh, is a famous painter whose paintings have resulted into arriving at various truths in science and technology. The strokes of images reflecting the mental turbulence of the painter is clearly seen in this paint of Starry Night. The painting Starry Night by Vincent van Gogh is recently in news due to discovery of distant stars by Hubble telescope, which you can see on the right-hand top corner of the painting, which looks exactly like the image on the right-hand top corner. Mathematical analysis of the painting shows that the color variations and the brushstrokes patterns follow the scientific theory of turbulence given by Kolmogorov. This creation of a night sky filled with the swirling clouds and eddies of the stars, and the distant image of a star by Hubble telescope exactly fits into the painting of stars by Van Gogh. This is one of his famous paintings, the wheat field with flying crows. You see that the rod abruptly stops at the middle, and the next day he committed suicide. The abstractionist painter Jackson Pollock, in his work, the subject of chaos has been seen by very several scientists and mathematicians. When he paint with a brush by dropping paint, he avoided hydrodynamic instability to paint with his dripping technique. The man of science observed what nature offers with the eye of understanding, but her beauties are not lost on him for that reason. More truly, it can be said that understanding refines our vision and heightens our appreciation of what is striking and beautiful by C.V. Raman. We have famous poetry, say for example by Wordsworth, who says, "Sweet is the lore which nature brings our meddling intellect, misshape the beauteous forms of things we murder to listen. The scientific knowledge destroys the beauty." That is what Wordsworth says. The same line as kids. In the dull catalogue of common things, philosophy will clip an angel's wings. Another example is from Prometheus Unbound by Shelley, which has been described by Herbert Reed as the greatest expression ever given to humanity's desire for intellectual light and spiritual liberty. Lightning is his slave. Heaven's utmost deep gives up her stars, and like a flock of sheep. Heaven has no any secrets. Man unveils me. I have none. We have once again a famous quotation from S. Chandrasekhar on Virginia Woolf. Reading her, I can almost feel fine lace curtains in a gentle breeze. Her prose has such a transparent quality, like an elegant mathematical formula. Henry Poinger once said, "Scientist does not study nature because it is useful to do so. He studies it because he takes pleasure in it. And he takes pleasure in it because it is beautiful. It, if nature were not beautiful, it would not be worth knowing it, and life would not be worth living." We have another piece of creative interaction between a physicist and a psychologist, the hidden side of Wolfgang Pauli, an eminent physicist's extraordinary encounter with depth psychology. Carl Jung and Pauli had a series of letters between 1932 and 1958, which was published later on as Atom and Archetype. By analyzing the dream of Pauli, Jung came out with an example of subconscious mind and a concept of archetype. Once in sleep, Pauli saw a, an image of a wheel, and that enables him to think about spin of fundamental particles. It's from a series of conversations in which Pauli and Jung came up with a concept of synchronicity, for example, the ultimate dependency between the observer and the observed. By the fall of 1948, they were using the term regularly in their correspondence. In a letter from mid 1949, Jung writes to Pauli, engrossing a manuscript for his first paper on the subject. Quite a while ago, you encouraged me to write down my thoughts on synchronicity. Nowadays, physicists are the only people who are paying serious attention to such ideas. A few days later, Pauli echoes his faith in interdisciplinary thinking by sharing with Jung one of his great intellectual influences. The idea of meaningful coincidences, that is, simultaneous events not casually connected, was expressed very closely by Schopenhauer in his essay on the apparent design in the fate of individuals. Ideas can be expressed symbolically or by meta language. This is a logo of World Year of Physics to 2005. This is a double cone as described in special theory of relativity. We see that the time runs upwards, and the past recedes past to distance, and future approaches. The past has a redshift, and the future cone has got a blue shift, depending upon the approaching of the source. We have this shows that how a logo can be described very important scientific concepts without any words. Not until many years later did I appreciate the central position of geometry to all natural knowledge. Every mineral found in nature, every crystal made by man, every leaf, flower, or fruit that we see growing, every living thing from the smallest to the largest that we walk on earth, flies in the air, or swims in waters, or lies deep down to the ocean floor, speaks aloud of the fundamental role of geometry in nature. The pages of Euclid are like the opening bars in the grand opera of nature's great drama. They lift the veil and show to our vision a glimpse of the of vast world of natural knowledge awaiting study. A poetic description by C.V. Raman. We have this is a salute to nature, the first ever nanotechnologies to create photonic crystals. The eye-catching colors in peacock feather, butterfly wings, and in some plants are not due to pigments, but due to network structures of fibers to create meshes of varying sizes. C.V. Raman was a co-traveler of light, color, and beauty. C.V. Raman was a blessed family. C.V. Raman's sisters, sons, Sita Lakshmi's sons, S. Panjaratnam, theoretical optics, S. Ramasheshan, crystallographer, S. Chandrasekhar, liquid crystal, C.V. Raman's brothers, and CSIR's son, S. Chandrasekhar, the astrophysicist who won Nobel Prize in Physics in 1982. Another examples of gifted families in history of science is Marie Curie, Pierre Curie, their daughter Irene Joliot Curie, and her husband Frederick Joliot Curie, who won the Nobel Prize. Marie Curie won the Nobel Prize twice, one for physics and another for chemistry. We have William Bragg and his son Lawrence Bragg, who got Nobel Prize in 1915 for their work on crystal structures using X-ray scattering. Due to health problems, Raman was denied the opportunity to study abroad. He wrote the competitive examination of finance department and topped the list. In 1907, he was appointed as the Assistant Accountant General at Calcutta. Before catching the train to Calcutta, the 13-year-old Lokasundari walked into the life of C.V. Raman. Within 1 week of shuttling back and forth between the home and the office at Calcutta, Raman made a remarkable discovery. The Indian Association of Cultivation of Science at 210 Dobasar Road, Calcutta. It was a heart-touching scene. On knocking the door of IACS building, a young man called Ashutosh Day appeared in front of Raman. A historical meeting indeed, since later on, for about 25 years of scientific pursuit, Ashu Day was going to be Raman's right hand. From 1907 to 1919, Raman studied the acoustic properties of Indian musical instruments. Scientific journals like Nature, Philosophical Magazine, Physical Review started printing names of Raman and association at a regular basis. Mahendra Sarkar's association became world famous. The purity of sound from Ektara, acoustic difference between tambura and veena, etc., were the subjects of investigation carried out by Raman. Raman found their secrets by conducting a series of experiments. Raman and Ashubabu even constructed a self-working violin using discarded components available in the market shops. 1916 was the year which created a turning point in Raman's life. In that year, Ashutosh Mukherjee became VC of Vice Chancellor of Calcutta University. He invited Raman to take up the physics professor's post and strengthen the science education in Calcutta University. Without a second thought, he threw away the job in civil service and accepted the invitation of Ashutosh Mukherjee. Then came an unexpected blow. The funding agency which financed the Palit professorship has laid a condition of foreign experience for the candidate. Raman has not even put his feet on a foreign soil. As a solution, authorities advised Raman to avail 2 months' experience in any foreign labs. Raman did not accept. He replied, I can train foreigners in my lab if they want. As a special consideration, Raman was made the Palit Professor of Calcutta University. Raman effect is a phenomenon which is known after a person which influences a maximum number of diverse fields like physics, chemistry, biology, medicine, archaeology, geology, agriculture, forensic science, communication engineering, computing, laser technology, etc. In fact, there doesn't exist not much areas which are not influenced by Raman effect. Invention of various types of lasers during 60s enhanced the horizon of Raman effect, and a number of new terminologies started taking shape in the Dictionary of Science and Technology. Born on 1888 November 7 at Tiruchirappalli, are the second of 8 children of R. Chandrasekhar Iyer and Parvati Ammal. Chandrasekhar Venkataraman passed matriculation at the age of 11, FA at 13, BA at 15, and MA at 18, all at the highest rank. By the time he completed MA in 1907 from the Presidency College, Madras, Raman has two already authored two research papers in the prestigious philosophical magazine, shortening his tongue-twisting name to C.V. Raman. Raman was arranging a conducted tour for students to the infinite landscape of nature with physics as the vehicle. Calcutta University became the dream world of meritorious students like K.R. Ramanathan from Trivandrum, K.S. Krishnan from Madras, Bhagavandam from Andhra. Many came from nook and corners of India to accept the discipleship of Raman. Following the death of Amritlal in 1919, Raman became the secretary of the association. IACS echoed the enthusiasm and noise 24 hours a day. During this period, Raman and his group were slowly sliding to the rich fields of light and color. The first foreign trip of Raman was in 1921 to take part in a conference at Oxford. During his return journey, the deep blue of the Mediterranean Ocean tickled the scientific mind in Raman. He did some observation of the blueness of waters using his nickel prism, which he always carries. He found that the blueness of the ocean is not due to reflection of the sky, as Rayleigh thought, but is due to light scattering of sunlight getting diffused into the ocean waters. By 1923, Raman and Ramanathan started studying the scattering of X-rays from liquids. Just during this time that Compton discovered the wavelength shift in X-rays due to scattering by electrons. Raman immediately scaled up the phenomenon of Compton effect and argued that similar phenomena will occur for light scattering by molecules. By this time, Raman and Ramanathan discovered X-ray fluorescence from organic liquids. In 1924, FRS came in search of Raman. During a reception party, Ashutosh Mukherjee asked, Professor Raman, what next? And answer was spontaneous. Why? Of course, Nobel Prize itself. Day and night were spent by Raman and his students in the lab from 1924 onwards. Towards the end of the hectic period, the mood acquired the climax as Nobel Prize of 1930 went to C.V. Raman, the first Indian and the first Asian to receive the Dream Prize. The Nobel Prize ceremony took place at Stockholm on 10th December 1930 between 4 and 7:30 p.m. Since two Americans were also in the list, advisors of USA were also present in the hall. He wrote to USA. Of all the Nobel laureates, much attention was focused onto Sir Venkataraman, the Indian winner. After receiving the prize from the king, C.V. Raman returned to his seat, visibly moving with emotion. Tears streamed down from his eyes. During the dinner, Raman's speech was a masterpiece. Everybody in the hall gave a big applause to C.V. Raman after his speech. The only one annoyed at least a little was the British ambassador near my seat, since Raman referred to his friend in jail who sent greetings to him telegraphically. Now listen to Raman's words. On returning to my seat, I saw the ocean of white faces all around me. Here, I, a loner, an Indian with a coat and a turban. I really felt to be representing my country and my people. I felt humbled while receiving the prize from King Gustav. Moments up, tired of emotion. I controlled myself. When I turned around, I was sitting below the Union Jack. On realizing this, I remembered my poor country, India, does not have even her own flag. This realization broke my control. Because at that time, in 1933, when Science and Technology Institution at Bangalore founded by Tata, which later on became Indian Institute of Science, was looking for a new director. From the beginning itself, the directors of institute were used to be British, and the committee conducted Rutherford in England. He asked, since India itself has the most appropriate person, why waste time searching in England? In 1933, Raman became the first Indian to become the director of Tata Institute. The Tata Institute in Bangalore, later on renamed as Indian Institute of Science. Due to some unfortunate local politics, within 3 years, Raman had to resign from the director's post. However, he continued to be the head of the physics department till his retirement in 1948. Raman molded outstanding physicists in Bangalore also. To cite examples, Nagendra Nath, Panjaratnam, P.R. Pisharadi, R.S. Krishnan, G.N. Ramachandran. One of the important discoveries during this period was Raman-Nath effect, which was recently applied in free electron lasers. Phenomenon of geometrical phase in polarized light, discovered by Panjaratnam, was rediscovered by Michael Burry in 1982 and is now commonly referred to as Burry's phase. Second World War made scientists to leave Germany. Raman wanted to bring stalwarts like Born, Schrödinger, Oppenheimer, etc. to India. In fact, Born stayed in Bangalore as a guest of Raman for some time. However, the adverse atmosphere prevailing in the institute and in the country made Raman to fail in this mission. Otherwise, India could have been the gravitational center of modern science and could have regained the ancient glory. Raman established the Indian Academy of Sciences. During 1934 to 54 period, the Indian Academy proceedings were considered to be one among the top research journals all over the world, since majority of Raman's papers appeared in these proceedings. After his retirement from Indian Institute of Science, Raman established a research laboratory in Bangalore, which is now called Raman Research Institute or RRI, an important landmark in Bangalore. The RRI sits in harmony with its natural surroundings, as Raman had ordained in his will to keep its rhythm with nature intact. During 1990s, the RRI constructed an optics lab around an old tree. Under the tree, teachers and students could be seen sipping coffee and discussing the latest in physics research, literally in the lap of nature. A view of Raman Research Institute, Bangalore. After 1948, every year Raman used to give Gandhi Memorial Lecture on October 2nd through All India Radio. On the October 2nd of the year 1970, the country heard the last of Gandhi Memorial Lecture by Raman. One evening on November 1970, Raman fell unconscious in his lab. 2 weeks later, on November 21, he breathed his last. Following his wish, the compound of RRI became the resting place of Professor C.V. Raman, the final resort of the great sun of India, sans celebration, sans memorials, sans anything except a lone tree on the green spread. At present, the tree has grown tall to get covered with yellow flowers. Why was Raman effect received so much respect and a fastest Nobel Prize? In one sentence, we can define Raman effect as the inelastic scattering of light by a medium, unlike Rayleigh scattering, which is elastic scattering. We have the interaction between light and matter through absorption of light, dispersion of light, through a prism. A white light will split into multiple component colors. The scattering of light. To observe IR spectrum, infrared spectrum of a molecule arising due to different modes of vibration of the molecule, should have a change in dipole moment during vibration, since the optical absorption spectrum arises due to interaction between the electric dipole of the molecule and the electric field associated with the electromagnetic field. Only those modes of vibrations which result into change in dipole moment are said to be infrared active. For example, in the case of carbon dioxide molecule, we have three modes: the symmetrical stretching, asymmetrical stretching, in-plane bending, out-of-plane bending. Of this, the symmetrical stretching does not have any change in dipole moment and hence not IR active. For polyatomic molecules, we have different a number of modes of vibrations like symmetric stretching, asymmetric stretching, symmetric bending, asymmetric bending, etc. Scattering of light by molecules induces dipole moment in the molecule through polarization, resulting into energy exchange between the molecule and light, so that the scattered radiation will involve wavelength shifted radiation apart from the radiation of unshifted wavelength called the well-known Rayleigh scattering, causing blues of the sky and blue of the sea. The frequency shifted radiations in Raman scattering are called Stokes and anti-Stokes Raman radiation. Thus, to have the complete picture of the molecular structure through optical interaction, it is necessary to have information about both IR and Raman spectrum. Importance of Raman scattering in the context of molecular structure is similar studies on X-ray scattering from crystals so as to identify the symmetry of crystal structure. No wonder the Nobel Prize to Raman scattering was one of the fastest. An important rule governing Raman scattering is called mutual exclusion principle. Molecules showing inversion symmetry will have modes of vibration which are infrared active, will not be Raman active, and vice versa. For example, both carbon dioxide and carbon tetrachloride have center of symmetry obeying mutual exclusion principle, unlike nitrous oxide, which is a linear molecule but does not have a center of symmetry. This is an example of the symmetry of inversion. For carbon dioxide, the carbon atom is the center of inversion. The symmetric stretching, there is no change in dipole moment. IR inactive, but there is a change in polarization, therefore Raman active. All other modes are Raman inactive. You can see that we have both infrared spectrum and Raman spectrum, which shows the mutual exclusion principle. This is the Raman spectra of carbon tetrachloride arising from modes of vibration. In infrared, we have got only one peak, whereas in Raman modes we have three. As you increase the temperature of the liquid, you can see that the intensity of Raman lines is also increasing or changing, you can see. We can also see the isotope effect of chlorine, 35 and 37 of chlorine, with the relative abundance of 3:1. Nitrous oxide does not have a center of symmetry, does not have a center of inversion, and does not obey mutual exclusion principle. Let us see the physics behind spontaneous Raman scattering. Electric field associated with electromagnetic field induces polarization in the molecule, thereby creating a dipole. Number of dipole per unit volume is the polarization of the medium. The interaction of light induces vibration in the molecule. Let us see the classical picture. We have the electric field associated with electromagnetic field induces a polarization proportional to the polarizability, what is known as the polarizability of the medium alpha, where the polarizability is a function of the vibration coordinate. It can be Taylor expanded. Alpha is alpha 0 plus the alpha by dq into q, where q is the modes of vibration q0 cos omega mt. We can get the induced dipole moment as alpha E0 cos omega LT, where omega L is the frequency of laser, and d alpha laser beam, and d alpha by dq, q0 E0 cos omega mt and cos omega LT. Omega m means the frequency of vibration of the molecule. This can be rewritten as mu is alpha E0 cos omega LT plus d alpha by dq, q0 E0 cos omega L minus omega mt plus cos omega A plus omega mt. You see that we have, apart from the incident frequency omega L, we have downshifted and upshifted frequencies known as Stokes-Raman and anti-Stokes-Raman spectrum. Atoms can change the energy state through electron excitations or de-excitations. Molecules can change energy state by electron excitations or by vibration and rotation of molecules. Electron-based energy changes in visible and UV regions of light spectrum, whereas vibration in the infrared region and rotational changes in the micro region. IR energy is about 10 to the minus 2 times that of UV visible radiation. Microwave energy is about 10 to the minus 2 times that of IR. In 1923, Schmeckel predicted a possibility of light scattering, which is the basis of quantum theory of Raman scattering. Molecules in low energy state vibrates and go to higher energy level by extracting energy from photon, thereby reducing the energy of scattered photon. Stokes-Raman radiation. Molecules in higher energy states scatters photon and goes to lower energy state by giving energy to photon, and scattered light contains high energy photon like blue light radiation and Stokes light. Scattered photons have same energy as that of incident photons. It's the Rayleigh scattering. We can describe this phenomena by a collisional problem. We have EI plus h nu 0 plus half mv squared before the interaction is EF plus half mv dash squared plus h nu after the interaction, where v and v dash are the velocities of the molecules. We write EI minus EF is h nu minus nu 0, neglecting the velocity of molecules, which is very large, so that their difference can be neglected. Or we can think of them as a thrust during the interaction. We have three cases. In case 1, EI is equal to EF. Initial and final states are same. In that case, nu equal to nu 0, giving Rayleigh scattering. In case 2, we have EI greater than EF, where nu is greater than nu 0, giving anti-Stokes scattering. And case 3, EI less than EF, nu less than nu 0, giving Stokes scattering. This is the energy level description of quantum picture of Raman scattering. We have energy level. This is the energy level picture involved in Rayleigh, Stokes, and anti-Stokes Raman scattering. In short, Raman effect is inelastic scattering of light by molecules, giving rise to Stokes-Raman scattering and anti-Stokes-Raman scattering, and molecules vibrationally getting excited to higher and higher vibration levels. Number of molecules in higher vibration levels is according to the Boltzmann distribution. Nv is n0 e raised to minus E0 minus EV by kBt, or n0 e raised to minus S bar omega by kBt, because E0 minus EV is the energy of photon. We see that the Nv is less than n0, so that population of higher states is less than lower stage. And the Raman scattering cross-section is proportional to the number of molecules in the respective vibration levels, and hence the Stokes-Raman lines intense than anti-Stokes-Raman lines. Molecules vibrate independent of each other, and hence scattered photons by the molecules do not have any constant phase relationship. Hence, scattered Raman radiation will have random distribution of phases over 2 pi. Hence, Raman scattering, in which Raman photons do not have a constant phase relationship, is called spontaneous Raman scattering, which is very weak in intensity and cannot be seen with naked eye. It takes sometimes exposure time as large as 8 hours to record Raman spectrum. Let us calculate the ratio of anti-Stokes to Stokes scattering intensity at 300 Kelvin with a vibration frequency of 1440 wave number. You will get this about 0.5. The energy difference, the most important aspect is that the energy difference between Raman radiation and the incident radiation is equal to vibration energy of the molecule. If there are more than one modes of vibration with non-zero polarizability, we can see more Raman lines is providing information about the respective vibrational energy values. Hence, Raman scattering is a valuable tool to study vibration spectrum, and hence molecular structure which cannot be realized using conventional infrared absorption spectroscopy for molecules which do not have permanent electric dipole moment. Availability of lasers gave a boost to research in the field of Raman scattering. This is an example from ISP Photonics Lab, where Raman scattering was observed from a 10 centimeter length of optical fiber and corresponding the spectra. These are various attribution of the Raman bands in PMMA polymer optical fiber. The variation of relative intensity ratio of Raman bands at 2957 and 3001 wave number with fiber length. We can see 25 milliwatt, 40 milliwatt, 50 milliwatt. So you can see that the fiber length becomes shorter and shorter. This is an example of Raman spectra of PMMA cube and toluene, which exactly sees that the Raman spectra correspond to CS group at 3000 wave number. This is another example of the application of Raman scattering, where Raman spectra of dengue infected blood recorded by the optoelectronics department group of Kerala University. You can see that the various assignments of Raman lines can be described in terms of the Dengue fever. This is an example of imaging application of Raman scattering for agricultural applications, where you can get the Raman spectra of leaves from plants of various conditions. This is the uh, Raman lines schematically represented. As said earlier, the importance of Raman effect is the energy change between incident photon and scattered photon with the energy level of the molecule in the medium. Stimulated Raman scattering arises due to third-order optical nonlinearity of the medium. Optical nonlinear properties like optical second harmonic generation, optical phase conjugation through four-way mixing are called passive nonlinearity, since there is no energy exchange between the laser beam and the medium. However, in the case of phenomena like two-photon absorption, stimulated Raman scattering, there are energy exchange between the laser beam and the media and are called active optical nonlinearity. The nonlinear polarization arising due to energy coupling between laser, beam, and the optical media can be written in the case of Stokes radiation as the nonlinear polarization at laser frequency omega L is EL into, and the nonlinear polarization at Stokes frequency. The energy coupling solutions between laser beam and the optical media can be written as in the case of Stokes radiation as the special variation of intensity of Stokes radiation as it propagates through the medium as d squared Es by dz squared minus 6 mu 0 omega s squared by ks, imaginary part of chi r, El squared dl by dz is 0. Solution of which is Es0 e raised to half grz, where gr is 6 mu 0 omega s squared by ks, imaginary part of chi r and El squared. Considering the beam attenuation in the medium, Stokes field intensity can be rewritten as Es squared as Es0 squared e raised to grz minus alpha sz, where alpha s is the Stokes beam attenuation coefficient. In the case of anti-Stokes Raman scattering, we have the anti-Stokes frequency omega s is twice the laser frequency minus omega s, which is omega l plus omega v. That means you can have the anti-Stokes Raman scattering in presence of Stokes radiation, unlike in the case of Stokes Raman scattering. D squared E as by d z squared minus 6 mu 0 omega a squared by etc. The solution of which gives the field, anti-Stokes field, as exponential half grz. Considering the beam attenuation, we have the intensity as e raised to grz minus alpha s z, where alpha is anti-Stokes beam attenuation coefficient. This is from our photonics laboratory, where we see the Raman, the stimulated Raman scattering from acetone with the green laser light 2.2 electron volt Simpson beam, giving out red light at 1.2 electron volt. Therefore, acetone has a vibrational energy of 1.1 electron volt. One of the important applications of Raman effect is the use of Raman scattering to detect cancer cells. This is the coupling of nanotechnology with Raman effect. Nanoparticles are specifically designed to target cancer cells and latch it onto them with a molecular latch. The nanoparticles are injected into the bloodstream where they locate and then bind the cancer cells. When laser light is beamed onto the skin, the nanoparticles reflect a distinctive Raman signal identifying the presence of cancer cells. Later on, using a high power laser beam, these cells can be destroyed. This is about, again, the difference between amorphous and crystalline silicon Raman lasers. The intensity or power of normal Raman peak depends upon, in a complex way, upon the polarizability of the medium, intensity of the source, and the concentration of the active group. The power of Raman emission increases with the fourth power of the frequency of the source. There, the photo decomposition is a problem. Sometimes we may have to limit our upper laser power. Raman intensities are usually directly proportional to the concentration of the active species. We have another important quantity known as Raman depolarization ratio. Polarization is a property of a beam of radiation and describes the plane in which radiation vibrates. Raman spectra are excited by plane polarized radiation. The scattered radiation is found to be polarized to various degrees depending on the type of vibration responsible for the scattering. This is a picture of polarized radiation getting scattered by a sample, and we can describe the intensity of polarization at perpendicular polarization and parallel polarization, and we can describe the depolarization ratio as the ratio I perpendicular by I parallel. Experimentally, depolarization ratio may be obtained by inserting a polarizer between the sample and the monochromator. The depolarization ratio is dependent upon the symmetry or the vibration responsible for scattering. For example, when polarized band has a depolarization factor less than 0.76 is for totally symmetric modes, depolarized band equal to 0.76 for B1G and B2G non-symmetrical vibrational modes, anomalously polarized band for P greater than 0.76 for A2G vibrational modes. The intensity of Raman scattering increases with the concentration in the solution, as this example shows. What are the requirements needed for Raman technique? Requirement for Raman technique is to determine peak position, peak shift, bandwidth, and intensity. A good laser excitation, reduction of skylight, good collecting optics, spectral resolution and spectral coverage, spatial resolution and confocality, sensitivity subject to the detector, light flux subject to dispersion, and we can have a sample getting dispersed by grating, and which can be detected by a detector. Monochromatic laser light source, typically a laser, a way of focusing laser onto the sample and then collecting the Raman scatter. Sampling optics, rejection filter, a way of removing the scattered light that is not shifted. Spectrometer and detector, often a single grating spectrometer and a CCD detector. The collecting optics is also an important parameter in Raman spectrometer. We have the collection of solid angle, large for high numerical aperture lens, small for low numerical aperture lens. Sampling volume is small for high numerical aperture lens, large for low numerical aperture lens. Large spot size for small for high numerical aperture lens and large for low numerical aperture lens. And we have numerical aperture as n sin theta, where n is the refraction index and the theta is the aperture angle. So we have to make use of appropriate collecting optics depending upon samples. For example, for opaque samples, high numerical aperture lens works better because there is almost no penetration of laser light into the sample. High laser power density increases sensitivity, wide collection in solid angle increases the sensitivity. Spectral resolution and spectral coverage describe the focal length of the spectrometer. The spectral resolution is a function of dispersion, width of entrance slit, pixel size of CCD. Dispersion is the relation between refraction of light according to the wavelength of light. Dispersion is a function of focal length, blue density, and the excitation wavelength. In general, long focal length and high blue density rating offer high spectral resolutions, as shown in this slide. Spectral resolution is also depending on the slit width. When recording a line whose natural width is smaller than the monochromated resolution, the measured width will reflect the spectrograph resolution. So, spectral resolution as a function of pixel size, smaller the pixel size, we get a better and better resolution. Spatial resolution is important to study the penetration depth. Larger excitation wavelength, you have a deeper penetration, and exact values depend on the materials. For example, the spatial resolution for penetration length. This slide shows information about pure silicon substrates and strained silicon of top layer, 325 nanometer, 488 nanometer, 788 nanometer. Higher the excitation wavelength, deeper the penetration. Example of application using confocality principle, depth profile on a multi-layer polymer sample shows different characteristics of the spectrum. Raman spectroscopy, the key features. Raman is a molecular fingerprinting method. Raman is most sensitive to symmetrical bonds, good for characterizing molecular backbones, crystal lattices, etc. Raman is highly sensitive to slight changes in bond angle or strength, highly sensitive to geometric and conformation structures, highly sensitive to stresses in molecules or crystals, high sensitive to modifications in the molecular environment. Raman scattering can be excited at any laser frequency. Laser sources from deep UV to the near infrared. Resonant Raman effect, enhancement of only some modes, large intensity advantage, and low concentrations and more accessible. Raman experiment is highly versatile, not complicated sample preparation, non-destructive measurements. The face of nature was presented to us, infinitely varied, but to those who love her, is ever beautiful and interesting. The blue of the sky, the glories of sunrise and sunset, the ever-shifting panorama of the clouds, the varied colors of the forest and the field, and the star-sprinkled sky at night. These and many other scenes pass before our eyes on the never-ending drama of light and color which nature presents for our benefits. Thank you very much. I conclude with C.V. Raman's quote. This is happiness, that we should be alive and that we should be endowed by nature the faculty to perceive this feeling vision of beauty, and this is happiness indeed. Thank you very much.